Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the second session of the Discover the Power of Open Text Appworks webinar series. My name is Neha Jha, and my colleague Nicholas King and I will be hosting today's session. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Appworks, while Nick is the Senior Director of the Appworks Product Management Team. Before we begin, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. You'll notice on your console window, there are multiple engagement windows. All the windows are movable and resizable. So feel free to move them around and get the most out of your desktop space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. We encourage you to ask questions during the webinar, which you can submit through the Ask a Question box. We'll have a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Please know we do capture all questions, so if we run out of time, we'll answer your questions later via email. For the best viewing experience, we encourage you to use a high-speed and stable internet connection and close any programs or browser sessions running in the background that could cause issues. Events are bandwidth intensive, so closing any unnecessary browser tabs and logging off VPN will help conserve your bandwidth. If your slides are behind, pushing F5 on your keyboard will refresh the page. You can find additional answers to common technical issues in the Help tool at the bottom of your screen. A recording of the event will be available after the event concludes and can be accessed using the same audience link sent to you earlier. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. We will be covering topics like low-code development, the role of AI in low-code development, demo, and much more. Appworks offers a low-code development platform to intuitively tool applications for process automation. Let's begin by defining low-code application platforms. Leading research analyst Gartner defines low-code application platforms, or LCAPs, as application platforms that are used to rapidly develop and run custom applications by abstracting and minimizing the use of programming languages. Enterprise LCAPs are a subset of this market that target a wider range of developer personas, especially enterprise developers, and provide features essential for application delivery and maintenance in mid-size and large organizations. These features include support for high performance, availability, and scalability of applications, disaster recovery, security, API access to and from, enterprise and third-party cloud services, usage monitoring, service level agreements, and availability of technical support and training. LCAPs are the foundation for a wide range of application types, application components, and process automation. Low-code development tool is considered as an essential efficiency enhancer, as it empowers non-professional developers to build apps using low or no-code tools without requiring extensive programming language. Low-code platform lowers technical debt and hence leads to a reduced total cost of ownership, or TCO. Low-code tool is a singular platform where Fusion team, consisting of professional developers and citizen developers, come together to develop powerful and versatile application. As per Gartner's Enhanced Digital Employee Experience with Responsible Low-Code Communities report dated May 2024, worldwide spending on low-code development technologies is projected to grow to $44.5 billion. Developers outside of formal IT departments will account for 80% of the user base for low-code development tools. Low-code development tools will account for 75% of new application development. 67% of CEOs want more technology work done directly by business functions. 51% of knowledge workers will be customizing, building, or extending applications using low-code development tools. Let's have a look on low-code adoption today. Forrester Research interviewed 34 customers on how low-code development enabled business process automation. While the customers they interviewed indicated that citizen development is a strategic focus, only 4 out of the 34 claimed that line of business team members create automations. And even those who did still needed to think like a programmer. One customer said that while some business users had set up forms with drag and drop features, the platform overall still required IT expertise. This study clearly indicates that low-code development platforms are not as intuitive for citizen developers as they could have been. AI assistant development to bridge the gap between citizen developers and business users. Generative AI is the buzzword in the market, and all progressive technology leaders are eager to ride this wave. 451 Research, part of S&P Global Market Intelligence, surveyed 650 business and IT leaders globally, asking about their perceptions and approaches to the use of generative AI in their enterprises. According to the survey, process automation or workflow development is one of the top 3 use cases for generative AI. With a low-code development platform powered by generative AI, organizations can bridge the skills gap and empower business users to generate a variety of process automation apps, augmenting and automating process app creation. Aligning with the findings of the survey, I'm excited to speak about Developer Aviator, an AI-powered feature available with Appworks low-code development platform. Developer Aviator empowers business users to generate apps for process automation. Solution builders can use Developer Aviator to generate apps through any of the 3 simple options. Enter a series of simple text instructions, or configure pre-built templates for standard processes, or import the Excel file of a process previously tracked by a spreadsheet. Users can further customize the generated applications using a low-code tool. If there is a need to scale or use the application for complex scenarios, they can collaborate with professional developers to add custom code and meet the advanced requirements. Developer Aviator drastically reduces development time and dependency on IT for every simple process. By empowering business users, organizations will be agile enough to adapt to changing marketing needs. Enough about Developer Aviator. I'm sure you must be eager to see it in action. Over to you, to Nick, for the product demo.
Great, thanks, Neha. So I'm just going to share my screen and then, as Neha says, show you Developer Aviator in action. So I'm just going to refresh and make sure that we're logged in. This is actually release 24.4, which is coming out in October. And you'll see the new developer experience for those of you that know Appworks. And we have this nice Aviator feature now for developers enabled. So as long as I'm in the right business developer role, I can go in and I can say I want to create an application with Aviator. And I accept the welcome message, as everything to do with AI says these days. You know, we don't guarantee the accuracy or anything about the responses. It can hallucinate, but I think you'll see as we go through this demo just how powerful it can be having AI-assisted development. So, as Nehal said, there's different options for getting started. So I can actually choose to go straight to building an application using AI prompts. I can either choose from a template, and we have this library of curated templates for different business domains that you can start from. And these templates include basically a data model for this application. So for transport management, expense management, booking an event. And this is a library that you'll see grow over time, and over time we'll add more and more kind of features into these template applications. I'm not going to do that though. I'm actually going to start with actually building something just with AI, completely from scratch. There is an option to import data from an Excel file, and that will then read each sheet in the Excel file is an entity, as a data item, and as a developer you can add a couple of extra sheets in there to describe how the different sheets and tabs relate to each other, and then Aviator will use that as the basis for the application and let you add content management, workflow and things to it, and they'll also import the data. But I'm going to start from complete blank canvas and say create me an application to manage employee training requests, where there is a workflow to request, review, and reimburse. So I'm going to pass that over to AI, and it'll check that I want to create an employee training request, and this is what it's going to be called, Employee Training Request Management System. I'll say yes. It wants to check what the sort of domain is, and this will help in terms of context. So I'm going to say this is to do with, I'm going to call this human resources. I could type in different domain if I knew what the sort of specific domain was that I want this app for. And you'll see it's come back with a suggested set of, we call them entities in Appworks. These are the data items. So I want the employee. I've got the training request. I've got the training course, and I've got the trainer. I don't need the trainer. So I can delete that if I want. And you see how I can work with what AI has given me and refine it. I can go and check the properties of these things, so I can see who the employee is. So I have some options that I can actually, if I already had one of these entities, for example, if I say use existing entity, you'll see we have things like person already in Appworks. So this might be my employees already set up. And it might be, a role of or the title of a person. I'm going to actually say create new for the sake of this demo. But you'll see how powerful this is. I've got the recommendations from AI. I can still go and make some tweaks if I wanted to. I'm actually going to remove the training course. I don't really want to define that as a separate thing either. I'm going to look at the training request and make sure I've got the request. I'm already storing the training course as a string in here, so that's happy. I can type in what it is. The status, the request date, approval date, notes. So I'll save that there, and I'll say next. Then it'll decide how do these things link together. So an employee can request multiple trainings, but a training request will only be from one employee. So we're not allowing multiple people to book onto as a group, but they could all book on individually to the same training course, obviously. I'm happy with that. Again, I can tailor this and change these things if I wanted to. The next thing it says is, do you want to add content management? And so it's really easy now, whether you've got extended ECM or Documentum or whatever content management system you've got. I want to actually track documents for the training request. So I can now be able to upload maybe the curriculum. If a manager wants to see what the course is about, what I'll be learning, I could attach that, or later on I could attach receipts or invoices for that training course. Then after, I want to generate a default security configuration. This will give me some very basic properties, roles like an approver, a user role. I'm actually, for the sake of the demo from time, skip that because later I have to then add people into the roles and I want to save a bit of time. But it allows you to define a proper security sort of model for the application as well. Then it gives me a name, so I'm going to call this training requests for the name of the project, and then it asks me what do I want to use for the title. This is actually going to generate, use AI. I'm going to call this employee training, and this will become the logo that will appear in the header bar of the application. So I'm happy with that. It's gone off and created some of the stuff behind the scenes in Appworks, and now it's saying, do I want a workflow? So yes, I absolutely want a workflow. And this is where taking data from an Excel file that you might use today to manage some simple processes, importing that data in and the different entities, and then using Aviator to add workflow on top of it, content management. really kind of, enhances that thing you do with Excel today. The training requests, yes, I want to have a predefined workflow. Dynamic basically allows that each instance of the workflow that runs could be different. So a more dynamic case kind of situation. I want a very static workflow for training requests. So it's going to go and ask AI what it recommends for steps in a training request process. So if I open this up now, the recommendation, it says I can submit the training request, validate it, go for manager approval, HR approval. Well, I don't want HR to approve it. I don't need HR, so I'm going to delete that. I'm not going to have a step for registration. I want this as a very simple request, manager approve, and then submit it for reimbursement. So I'm going to delete that as well. I'm going to add here one, just rename it, reimburse. So you see, it's very powerful that I can work with AI to help me guide, what I need to do. But at the end of it, when I now say add that new task, and I'm going to say save, you see, as if I wanted to go back and ask the AI for a more detailed explanation of what I want. If I wasn't happy with this at all, I could basically define using AI, using natural language, really clearly what I wanted. I'm going to save that and say next. So every step of the way, the AI gives me recommendations. I can accept, refine, go back and ask again for it to redo it. And there we have it. Within the space of maybe 5 minutes, I've built an application. So I get 2 links, one to manage, which lets me edit and revise and use low-code tooling to improve it, which I'll come back to. I'm going to click to use the application. So this is now, you see how quickly I can use this to prototype something even. So straight away, I've got a home page for my application with my logo. I've got a table of employees. So I'm going to create an employee to start with. Put myself in here. Let's say this could be coming from Active Directory. It could already be set up in the system. So I'm going to create myself as an employee. And if I used an Excel file as the starting point, all of that data, all those employees would have already been brought in for me. So I'm going to create a new training request. So I'm going to give it an ID of 1. And we could set this to auto-generate an ID. So this will be called presentation skills. Requesting it today. It's me who's going to do it. Okay, the status, maybe I want to refine this and make that a drop-down list. I can do that later. It's not been approved yet. I'll say create. If I open up this training request, you can see straight away we've got the data that I submitted. We've got a task here created already from that workflow to submit the training request. So this will be me. We've got the content management. This is a link now to maybe Documentum or Extended ECM. But I didn't have to do very much as a developer using AI to configure any of this. So I can straight away start to submit these and work on these. So I can go and claim this task, I can complete this task. And you see, as I complete tasks, then this process will continue. This will go to validate. So this will be my manager now validating that it makes sense for me to go on this as an employee. So that's how easy it is to build an application with AI-led development. Now, let's say, though, we go back here and we want to look at this and make a few tweaks. So even as a business developer, having used AI to generate that prototype, I can go back now and using really simple low-code tooling, I can go and improve the layout or rearrange things. I can change the label of things. I could completely change the workflow if I decide, actually, I want to add another step in. So although I've used AI to generate it and get me started, it's very intuitive for a developer, even a business developer, to now go in and look at, okay, I've got these entities. I've got the employee and the training request. I'm going to look at the training request. And, okay, I'm not happy with the layout of that create form. I want to change that a bit and just tidy it up a bit. So I can see I've got the form here. So you'll see what we call building blocks for all those things that Aviator added. We've got the workflow here. We've got the link to the content. You see how there's nothing else to do to add content in. So I'm going to open up the form and just make a quick change. and then finish with a demo. Just want to show you how easy it is, even for a business developer, to do something slightly more advanced. So here I can obviously, the request ID, maybe I'm going to set that to auto-generate, so I could remove that field. I could make that, put that over there, make that bigger. I want to resize this. So you see how easy it is to go in here and work with the low-code tooling to make changes to your application. I could go in and add even new capabilities, things that the Aviator didn't ask me about, rules. I could use a rule to set today's date automatically with a very simple expression. And so you see here that it's a very simple experience, and all I have to do is say save and publish, and those changes will be available for my users of my application. So I'll leave it there in terms of the demonstration. Stop sharing. So you've seen how easy it is to use Aviator to generate a new application. So that's great. And I know some of you on the call are probably already familiar with Appworks to some extent. So you're probably thinking, and I know some of you I've had conversations with as well, so what? For our customers, we want to do the implementation. How's this going to benefit me as a regular developer? What's the value? So as Nehal said, we're really targeting this at citizen developers to begin with, which is a new use case for Appworks, but we see it's a very valuable one, and our customers are really interested in allowing certain users to actually take control and build their own simple solutions. Many of our customers have 20, 30, 40, 50, even over 100 in some cases, applications where an application is one or two entities, one or two forms, a simple process, and that's an application for them. But we are working on Aviator. It's a whole, we're heavily investing in it. So for business developers, what you've just seen, we want to enhance those templates. We want to bring in an integration, more easily configured integration with extended ECM, being able to define more custom roles and have AI generate security models, improving that default UI maybe. So there's things we want to do for the business developer. But as you saw, it's already very powerful. And actually in the next release, you'll see some features coming through for regular developers, people who aren't business developers, but are used to building with Appworks and maybe want help generating the content of email templates that are going to be sent out, using AI for that, helping to generate expressions. So if you want to create, maybe it's a sales order processing system and you want an expression that will create a total of all the line items in an order and put that into another property. Today you'd have to look at the documentation and understand the expression language and how you to get an aggregate function against a set of child items. Well, if you can just say, create me, set the total of the line items into the total value of this entity, and it will generate the expression for you, then that will be really valuable. So you'll see that we want to work on these things for regular developers as well. So it helps you not just rapidly prototype, but also finish the project. So there's lots coming, and hopefully you'll be pleased to see that. The other aspect I wanted just to touch on was about governance, because it's a huge problem with low-code tools today. The notion of citizen developers and business developers giving them tools to build their own apps is great and very powerful. And it's what people use Excel for today, and lots of companies are using things like Power Automate. Or actually lots of companies are trying to prevent the sprawl of low-code tools like Power Automate. So what do we recommend with Appworks, and how are we working, how are we building the product to support governance, to make sure that people are building applications that make sense, and there's some control over the growth of the applications, and the reliability of those applications, and to track that applications which are being built are actually being used, because all too often people will play with these tools, build an application that never gets used, or maybe gets used for 3 months and then stop being used. And what happens if an application that's built by one of these business developers actually becomes really useful, and other teams, and I've seen this happen with Appworks, other teams say, oh, that's really cool, can we use that as well? And another team says, actually, can we do the same thing but slightly differently? Can we also use it? And then you're into the situation where you don't want, as a business owner, be building apps for other teams. And so then how do you hand that application off to IT maybe to own it and scale it and adopt it going forward? So we do provide this notion of a business developer role. now, which gives access, controlled access to a limited set of building blocks, a limited set of features. So there's no advanced workflow, there's no integrating with APIs where you'd need to know service accounts and things like that. So it limits the things that a business developer can do to just those things that are very safe to do and reliable. Deploying, yes, you could give them access in a production environment to a dedicated organization so that they can actually build an application and publish it themselves, fully own it, with no notion of kind of promotion. It's one option for that very, very basic, full control citizen development use case. But we could also have a separate environment where the citizen developer has to work with IT to actually promote it into the production environment. So there's a level of control, some governance there, and we'd recommend that for a real-world scenario. And then there's the option to actually take an application, it's a standard project, and hand that over to a full developer, a classic developer, who has access to every feature of Appworks. And they can take that project over and start adding in true BPMN processes, connectors to external systems. And what it does mean is that the business user loses control. They can't actually work on it any longer. So we'd recommend building up an expertise or a practice, a low-code practice in the organization then to have blended teams. And that works really well to have business owners working with IT to then further enhance the application that's become much more valuable to the company on a wider basis. But it means that IT then, or the business, the true developer can really build system integrations and more complex workflows and scale it out for different departments and all that kind of good stuff. So we really see the value of Aviator today is for business users building those small applications that they either track with Excel today or have an idea for their team, for their maybe they've got 5 or 6 people in the team, and they see value in automating a certain process and adding some control to it. But it's also really useful for rapid prototyping or in a sort of a sales situation, for to be able to sit in a meeting and just with a few prompts spin up an application and then go in and tweak it and add some other functions in is really compelling. And it really demonstrates where AI-led development is going, as Nehar said, it's going to be a real game changer in allowing people to really automate their business with just some natural language. So what's coming up in terms of the next series of webinars, and we'll have some Q&A in a minute on what you've seen. So I just want to encourage you that, the next session, we're going to be talking about how you can boost collaboration by eliminating data silos. So things like, how, if you're building an Appworks application, how can you link it to data in your line of business system? I've shown you very simply how you can build an app with some data model and a workflow and some UI. But how would you link it then to real world data in another system? What are the options? How would you synchronize data with, say, SAP? How would you, if you've got a mainframe that has no API, no other way of integrating with it, how would you have a process, flow through Appworks and at some point in the process update a mainframe, which is just a green screen application at the end of the day? So some of these questions we want to tackle in the next session, and we'll dig into, and it'll get a bit more technical, I suspect, in the next session. We'll demo how you can build those things and use those things. And then we'll also, in a future session, talk about how you achieve a better return on investment from Appworks. And you're really focusing around cloud, what we call Cloud Edition, which is where you can run Appworks in a containerized environment, allowing you to optimize resource usage, have more consistent configuration of an environment. So if you're doing CI/CD and you want to have a kind of a templated environment spun up within minutes, how does that work? And how does Cloud Edition and containerization support the much easier upgrades of your environment, which is traditionally with an on-prem or a VM-based deployment can be quite painful and time-consuming. So we'll look at that again in a future session. So I also want a call to action. So we really want to encourage you. We've got OpenText World coming up soon. November might seem like a long time away, but I'm sure you'll appreciate how quickly that's going to come around. We're gearing up for that now internally. We're starting to do all the planning for all the great breakout sessions and guest speakers and developer labs and and all of the opportunities for networking. So we really encourage you, to come and join us. We'll be running Appworks labs there, one around Aviator. You'll be able to actually play with the latest version of the Aviator that I've just shown to you. You'll be able to get hands-on with coding if you want to add custom code into Appworks, which will also be a topic of a future session, I think, for these series. There'll be a chance to also see all the other cool stuff that we're doing around AI and how we're really kind of elevating human potential, as the headline says. And then we'll open it up to any Q&A. So I don't know if there's been any Q&A in the panel while I've been talking.
Thank you, Nick. We have had some great questions come in, so let's jump right in. The first one is here. Is Aviator built in and free for use, or is it licensed separately?
Right, good question. Yeah, so we took the approach with Developer Aviator to make it just a part of the product. There's no extra license cost for it, but we're not providing the AI. We're not providing the large language model. So Appworks has a connector, an AI connector, which you can configure to either talk to Gemini, Google Gemini, or to OpenAI. For Google, we currently support Gemini Pro and Flash. And so, we expect you to subscribe to one of those large language models, and then you can hook that up to Appworks, and then that's what the Aviator will use.
Thanks, Nick. The next one in the queue. For content management, will the Aviator generated processes interact with App Enhancer?
So yes, they would interact with App Enhancer, because we use the content building block, if you know what that is, and that can be configured to work with Documentum, Content Server, or App Enhancer.
Okay, the next one. Can the workflow processes and steps be logged or audited? Is this an extra step to build?
So no, so yes and no. So there is an internal or technical audit, which is turned on at the sort of system level by an administrator. But there is also a building block called the history building block that can be added. It's not added by Aviator, but it's one of those building blocks that you can go in afterwards and then just add the history building block. And then it will create a record then of not just task actions, but content actions and all those types of things that happen. So yeah, it can be enabled for an end user in a couple of steps.
Thank you. The next one, are there any preferred LLMs that OpenText has tested and recommends specifically for Appworks?
Sure, yeah. So we test with Google, Gemini Pro, Flash, and also with OpenAI. So those are the ones that we support today.
Okay.
And we don't actually recommend one over the other.
Sure. And there's another one. Will there be an Aviator for end users of the applications so that they can interact with the applications via a chat interface?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that we're currently looking at, the architecture for how we do that. We see a huge value in having an Aviator for end users to be able to create cases, ask questions about cases, summarize a case, what happened, for a manager to say what happened yesterday or the last week, and have a summary generated of what's happened in the case. We're looking at the architecture. We want to play nicely with the rest of the OpenText ecosystem. And there's already a really nice content Aviator if you have one of our content management systems. And we see that a lot of the time the questions that people want to ask will involve content, maybe content as part of the case, and also the case information. And so we're currently working through architectures of how we interact with other Aviators and things like that. So it's in the plan. We don't have a date or a release planned yet for when we'll have it. But the thing I would say is it's likely to be, that will be a chargeable add-on, because at that point we probably will be providing the large language model. And so while Developer Aviator is essentially free as just a feature of development process, the case, we call it internally the case Aviator, would be a chargeable add-on. But no date as of yet as to when we plan to release it.
Well, Case Aviator definitely sounds exciting. I'm sure others also resonate with my opinion.
And actually, it'd be great. get input from this group, on use cases that you see from your customers as to what use cases a case aviator would really benefit. And another great opportunity, reason for you to come to OpenText World to come and chat with the product management team that will be there about those use cases.
Yeah, I would like to echo with Nick's thought. Please join us at OpenText World and come up with your ideas or use cases for case aviator. Your opinion are very much welcome. The next question in the queue is Developer Aviator using IDOL?
Yeah, no, it's not using IDOL. It's just using a large language model and using traditional. It's all very new, but kind of regular AI, natural language kind of prompts and things, and Gen AI. So we might start to use IDOL for some more advanced search features, and it may become a part of the overall AI story in the future. Again, it's something that we're currently looking at and playing around with.
Sure. And the next one is, are you using the fine-tuned models, or are you using the context to explain entity modeling to the LLM?
So probably more the latter. So we're not using any sort of fine-tuned model. We're not sharing any kind of customer data with the large language model. We're purely using it to ask questions and get from the large language model recommendations for a domain model for insurance, or for, as you saw, for training requests. Which is why the experience we need to allow some interactivity, so that if I ask a very generic question, or for a very generic application like training requests, typically the large language model will come back with a domain model for building a training program, unless I really specify. So we're just using the regular large language model. We're not doing anything to fine tune it at all.
Thank you so much, Nick. That's all the time we had today for questions. And thank you to our audience for your great participation. And we'll respond directly via email if we weren't able to answer any of your questions today. Please note that a replay of today's event will be available on demand shortly. And of course, we invite you to share it with your colleagues. Thank you to our audience today. This concludes our event. Have a great day ahead. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the questions.